DeAndre Hopkins has been shown the door in Arizona. What will he do next? And what will the Cardinals do next? All of this and more on the Toss the Mic Sportscast.
Toss to White. He's in! Patriots win the Super Bowl!
This is Eli from the Toss the Mic podcast here. Big news in the NFL today as DeAndre Hopkins has been cut from the Arizona Cardinals. This saves the Cardinals around $8 million this year in cap space and gets them out of his 2024 year, which would have been around $30 million. And while this does create $22.6 million in dead cap space, they couldn't really find any trade partners due to this contract. If we're looking at potential landing spots for DeAndre Hopkins here, the favorite would be the Buffalo Bills. And while there's quite some speculation among Bills players on social media platforms such as Twitter, with Von Miller being the GM again on Twitter, wanting DeAndre Hopkins to be back in Bills Mafia with his tweets, along with Deion Dawkins. What a sight that would be to have Josh Allen passing to DeAndre Hopkins, Stephon Diggs, and Gabe Davis there, along with Dalton Kincaid. As for the Arizona Cardinal depth chart after this move, Greg Dortch, Michael Wilson, and Zach Pascal might be moving up the depth chart after this, and definitely Rondale Moore would move to the 2 slot, but Zach Pascal would be expected to be in the 3 spot. But third-round pick Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch, who was electric at times last year, might be able to take that spot away from Zach Pascal.
Now, you brought up Buffalo, but come on, that's not the number one landing spot for DeAndre Hopkins. It's definitely either the Baltimore Ravens or the New England Patriots. And then I'd give you a dark horse too, but I'm already a Browns fan. I can't just tell you it's going to be the Browns, but it's going to be the Browns. Look at the replies of DeAndre Hopkins' tweet here. Za'Darius Smith is the first one I see right here. He says, dog emoji, eyes? Well, what do you think that means? Well, it means that the recruiting is way open for DeAndre Hopkins, as if it wasn't already happening before. He's already come on multiple podcasts talking about which quarterbacks he wants, what teams he wants, the best situation for him, which I don't blame him for. He is approaching the mid-30 mark, so get paid, get a Super Bowl. That's what you want, right? Now, I already mentioned the teams that would be the most receiver needy, which are the Ravens and the Patriots, who are pretty thin at receiver, though you could make an argument that the Ravens do have Odell Beckham Jr. He is 30, just like DeAndre Hopkins is. And they have the rookie Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman, who has not really proved himself in the league just yet. And then looking at the Patriots, obviously, they are extremely thin at the receiver position, and they would die for DeAndre Hopkins, to be honest. Here's how thin we're talking for the Patriots receiver room here. We have Devontae Parker, who hasn't really shown anything since his days in Miami, Tyquan Thornton, Kayshon Boutte, and Demario Douglas, with Matthew Slater and Trey Nixon in the back. But Matthew Slater is more for special teams, but that's besides the point. They need a guy like DeAndre Hopkins. They need a veteran. They need a guy who's going to produce now. They don't need to draft these late-round receivers. They don't need to develop these Bill Belichick-type receivers that just know what they're doing. They need to get something now so Mac Jones has somebody to throw to. It's insane. They should be desperate to find a receiver. And DeAndre Hopkins can do that right now for their front office. Their jobs are on the line. The clock's ticking. Tom Brady's been gone for years. It's time to start winning. It's time to just stop using your reputation to hold up your jobs. But the team that you don't want to say DeAndre Hopkins is going to go to, but he likely is probably going to go to, is the Kansas City Chiefs. What makes the Chiefs attractive is they just came off a Super Bowl. They don't have good receivers right now, so you're walking in and you're going to get production, you're going to get a ring, and you're going to get a chance to play with Patrick Mahomes. What receiver wouldn't want that? I don't know. They'd have to be as crazy as Antonio Brown or something. But for DeAndre Hopkins specifically, you've been with 2 dysfunctional organizations in the Houston Texans, the Bill O'Brien Houston Texans to be specific here, and the Arizona Cardinals with the Call of Duty Kyler Murray. Who wouldn't want to go to a stable situation if you've already been through all of that, like the Kansas City Chiefs? A budding dynasty, a young quarterback, young receivers around you so you can teach them a thing or two, and you got Travis Kelce in there too, and a defense that isn't worth scoffing at. It's not a bad defense by any means down there in Kansas City. You're always going to be competing on the defensive side of the ball when you have Chris Jones and Nick Bolton. Now, to give you an idea of how dominant DeAndre Hopkins can still be, He only played 9 games this year because he served a 6-game suspension, as most people have forgotten already. He had 64 receptions this year, 717 yards, with 11 yards per catch, by the way, and, 3 touchdowns, but you gotta give him more time in that offense. If he played all 17 games, he likely would have had over 1,000 yards and probably around 6 touchdowns. That is pretty good for a guy who's 31 years old by now. Now, obviously, he's not going to come in and be your number 1 receiver, but he can obviously still be a great producer for you. He's had 6 1,000-yard seasons, 11,298 total around his career, and he's been dominant. He's had 13 touchdowns for his career high, but, on average around 7 touchdowns per year. You're getting a dominant red zone threat. He's big, he can catch anything, and J.J. Watt even tweeted out today and said he still has the best hands in the NFL. Now, people have been saying that about Larry Fitzgerald for his entire career, but, they forgot about it right when he retired. So let's not forget about the dominance of these 2 former Cardinals receivers as they both head into the sunset of retirement. But DeAndre Hopkins, I say he has around 3 good years left in his tank. The Cardinals are really showing their true intentions for this year, however. They are truly tanking. They are trying to win the Tank Bowl, as Urinating Tree would say. Well, that's going to put a bow tie on this short episode of Toss the Mic. We are now on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music, so please feel free to check those out. We are also on YouTube, Toss the Mic Sportscast, and also the same thing on Twitter at Toss the Mic Pod. Thank you again for listening to this short video about the DeAndre Hopkins situation. Feel free to check out any other content we posted in the past and in the future. We'll be back in the Radio GBX studio next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central Time. Catch us there for episode 2 of Toss the Mic Sportscast.